everybody, and welcome back to live sessions. We are going to finish our female fitness myths topic today with the myth that training women is the same as training men. They're just smaller. And if you're a woman and you've picked up a training program off the internet, I'd highly recommend ensuring the qualifications of the trainer who's designed it are appropriate for women's health, because as we are going to get into today, you are going to notice that this is just tip of iceberg. I'm going to give you 5 differences, and I've tried to make the differences different to how we've talked previously in these lives, but we're pretty bloody different, and different not in a condescending, we're worthless kind of way, but different in that we are clearly different. Okay, so this myth that women are the same plays out in dieting. So, diets that place an emphasis on macros or calories will have the same macros and calories for a man and for a woman, and they'll just be adjusted for size and activity. But that's fundamentally flawed, because a woman's reaction to a calorie restrictive diet will change depending on where she is in her menstrual cycle, whether she's on the pill or not, and whether she's perimenopausal or postmenopausal. So you can't just adjust calories for a female client and expect her to lose weight. It also plays out in exercise prescription. We tend to round down, give fewer weights, fewer sets. It plays out in sport. Think tennis, where women play best of 3 and men play best of 5. And sort of over and over and over again, I feel like we're being told we're less than, we're smaller, we're less able, we can't do as much, where I don't really think that's fundamentally true. So if we scale it like you scale, say, a gymnast's ability, and you're talking mass and power, women are pretty strong and pretty able, but they are smaller. So that means their strength and ability will be different, because they've got to overcome the same gravity. Doesn't mean they have to go lighter or less or smaller or fewer all the time. Okay, so apologies if I create more questions than answers. Feel free to ask the questions, even though we're going to end our female fitness myth topic today. It's gone 4 months, supposed to go 4 weeks. But feel free to ask the questions and I'll come back to them later. So, drop in the ocean. Here are 5 ways women are really different to training men, and how you need to tweak your training to serve them better, or tweak your training to serve yourself better. So number 1, women think differently. Okay, our brains are different. Generally, there is a spectrum. Some will be closer to the male way of thinking. Some will be like light and day apart. But generally, the bulk, let's say 60 to 80% of our client base, female clients will think different. Generally speaking, in this bulk of your female clients, they will respond better to carrots than sticks. And what this means is women need encouragement, they need cheerleading, they need support, more than they need punishment, and like egging on and like yelling at and pushing. They don't need that as much. Women will perform better, and I got to reference this study because it was fascinating. Women perform better when they don't have an audience, whereas men, this was done in a running race, like a 5K time trial, something like that. Men performed better when they had an audience, they had the applause, they had the, lights and sirens. But women, they'll do better with encouragement, with privacy, and that's such an easy tweak to make in our sessions, right? If women also need to know why more often than men. If they understand what they're doing and the purpose, they'll find your sessions or your exercises far more motivating. The second way, the second of 374 differences is that we're built differently. And, it's obvious we're smaller generally. But there's things like the shape of our pelvic floors. You know, we know women are more vulnerable to pelvic floor dysfunction, but we think it's because women are pregnant and have babies, but that's not actually true. It's part of the story. But the fact that our pelvic floor is round and wide, that musculature has to overcome more force. Think of a large trampoline versus a small trampoline, how much bouncier the large one is, right? So it has to withstand more force from gravity, plyometrics, our organs bouncing up and down when we go for a run, the pressure from pregnancy, the damage from childbirth. But a man's pelvic floor is triangular-ish, so sort of blunted triangular and much smaller surface area. So even if men also got pelvic floor damage and had babies and pregnancy, they are at less risk because there's just not that surface area. So women also have what's called a larger carrying angle. The carrying angle is the angle of our elbow. See that? And that is because we have hips. So that angle means we don't bump our hips when we go for a walk, whereas a man's arms come much straighter. So if you're working out using, hydraulic machines or weight machines that are a standard shape, they're usually designed for a man's body. So even if you adjust for height and the smallness of a woman, you can't adjust for things like elbow angle on most of these machines. And there are very few, but there are some machines built specifically for women. And it would be interesting to go find out. But at the Into gym, we use things like cables and dumbbells far more often for that reason. Another really obvious structural difference that we may not have thought of is the Q angle. So the Q angle is the angle from the pelvis down the femur to the knee. So that triangle there, women have a much greater angle, which it's why you see that knocky knee action a lot more often in women. That means things like machine weights, hydraulic weights that are built for men will often be inappropriate, and they'll often hurt our knees or our hips. And we'll need to make tweaks to the angles in our coaching for the woman in front of us, depending where she is on that angle spectrum. So, yeah, training them a little more complicated just with their structural differences. Women are different hormonally, and not to flog a dead horse, you know, let's consider the fact that women, just generally are more flexible and more mobile, which means if you're structuring a whole program, your priorities will probably be different for your female clients than your male ones. Your male clients probably need more mobility training, while your female clients probably need more stability and strength training. Again, generalization, there is a spectrum. And I know there's a block with women. Look at our very first female fitness myth, weights will make you bulky. But if you can get as many of your female clients lifting weights as possible, that would be ideal because that's what we need more. Women's abilities, because of these hormonal differences, will also fluctuate throughout the month, whereas a man's hormonal profile fluctuates throughout the day. And this means, you'll tweak a program for a man if he's training in the afternoon one day compared to he normally trains in the morning, you'll see a difference. But if he trains the same time every week, you'll generally be able to give linear progressions with the odd adjustment for sleep and stress. Women, on the other hand, their ability and their superpowers will fluctuate week to week, even if they're training at the same time. So your progression is more likely to be cyclical, boom, 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 right? And very individual and bespoke, which means you can't apply the same formula to every woman either. And you don't need to be a women's health expert or a menstrual cycle expert to do that. You can do it just by tracking the cycle and noticing patterns for this woman in front of you. And then the last difference I want to touch on today is just that women's disease risk their symptoms of each disease and their experience of each disease is really different to that of men. And I'm going to talk just about heart disease today, but it actually is true whether you're talking about osteoporosis, dementia, Alzheimer's, which is another form of dementia, depression, anxiety, autoimmune disease. We are generally at 2 to 3 times the risk of these diseases, and our symptoms of them are often different to men, and our experience of them is often different to men. But generally, we're more aware of the male experience. So if we're talking about heart disease, everybody knows this, clutching the left-hand side. But symptoms of heart attack for women are just as likely, if not more likely, to be indigestion and back pain. So we got to scrub up. We got to scrub up on these differences, both through our education, through self-advocating, through advocating for our female clients and our friends, because at the moment we're underserved and we're important too. So we got to step it up. We got to make the noise, and we got to educate ourselves and our clients. So drop in the ocean. But if you've got questions from what I've talked about today, please message me. If you want more differences, please message me, and we will answer them. Probably not in the coming weeks, but eventually. I'll talk to you next Monday.